fierce morality. Nightfall, the rain, and the silence leads. We have come into the night, thunder and rage and war and night. We have come into the night, thunder and rage and war and night. We'll fight! Dark Age! Shield Wall! Finger up for Ragnarok! Finger up for Ragnarok! Finger up for Ragnarok! Welcome to Valhalla! Finger up for Ragnarok! Finger up for Ragnarok! Finger up for Ragnarok! Welcome to Valhalla! I can feel it in my veins, the warrior inside of me. Finger up for Ragnarok! Finger up for Ragnarok! Finger up for Ragnarok! Welcome to Valhalla!
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the semifinals Seer. I'm Hailstorm, joined by Malco. How you doing tonight, sir?
Doing pretty good. How about you?
Doing well. And again, shout out to you in the chat. Everyone stay tuned after the Seer. We're going to do the semifinal games between Los Nomadas and Bomba Bros tonight as well. So we'll have a pretty quick Seer episode, and then I'll go offline. We'll set that up real quick, and then we'll go live for the games. So be ready for both of those. But first, we'll run through the quarterfinal games. First matchup is Titan Gaming Mox versus the Ultra Lords. And first off, there was a salary issue in this match. Unfortunately, Titan Gaming Mox had Flame sub in, which actually put them 125 over his salary. It wasn't noticed until after the games were complete, so we had asked Ultra Lords if they wanted to do a rematch, but they said they were fine with letting it stand. But that did happen, but will be fixed for the semis and finals if they make it. But just wanted to call out there was a mistake there that we have rectified, and thank you to Ultra Lords for being understanding, and we're sorry that happened.
Unfortunate when things
Go
like that happen, but still, I'm sure they still gave it their all in these games, and they definitely played to their absolute best abilities. Just looking at the comps here, it looks like both these teams were looking to go all out against one another.
For sure. And all of the games we're going to be looking at tonight have been streamed. So if you missed any of them, check them out on the VODs or on YouTube. And make sure you get all that League of Legends action in. These games were entertaining to watch for sure. For game one, Ultra Lords had Misfortune, Alistar, Graves, Victor, and Trundle. Titan Game Mox had Seraphine, Leona, Hecarim, Xerath, and Vayne. Ended up being a Vayne top lane for Flame, Xerath mid for Bentage, and they sent that Seraphine Leona bottom. And in this one, SimJim just got gigantic on that Hecarim. We'll go ahead and look at the post game. And you can see 11, 2, and 15. He was using that new item to full effect. I forget what it's called, but the crit/heal on the first auto. It's definitely doing work for him, and he was just running the enemy team down. Delta Centuria doing his best, but in a very rough lane. Playing that Trundle into the Vayne is never fun. But still a pretty close game. Went to almost 40 minutes, and Titan Gaming Mox were able to take the victory. You got any thoughts, Malku?
It's just very interesting to look, and I honestly was looking more towards Ultra Lord's comp to actually take the win here, but it just looks like, again, as you said, Slim Jim just got absolutely fed in that jungle and was able to make a big impact upon the map. Because even if you look at the top side, it doesn't look like it went fairly too bad. It was generally kind of even in some senses, aside from the gold. But from just the way it looks, it was definitely on the back of the junglers to make a big difference. And I'm noticing that with these games, it's really like which jungler knows how to utilize the map better, I feel. So like whoever has more practice, I feel is just going to be better on the map for these games. So I can see why maybe Titan Game Mox was able to take this win. Just generally, maybe Simjim just having that like knowledge upon like how the new changes work.
Right. Salt calling out the cancer matchup top lane. I agree. All these degenerates playing range tops. Come on now. um, but yeah, well played them for game one. We'll jump into draft for game number two. And this one, Titan Gaming Mox on the blue side, Ultralords on the red side. Get him out of here. That's right. Miss Titan Gaming Mox ended up with Misfortune, Morgana, Braum, Belveth, and Cassante. Ultralords had Maokai, Varus, Rise, Nocturne, and Dr. Mundo. Got any thoughts on the team counts before we look at the results?
I liked some of the changes that Ultralords kind of did. Definitely, it was definitely some just adjustments. Mostly, it seems like the bans were the big part that made it a little bit easier for them to be able to get some of the stuff that they got out. I definitely like this Maokai pick being brought into the bot lane. It's just something I in general really like, and it's a pretty decent counter to the MF even with the Morgana. But seeing that the Morgana didn't go bot, it went mid instead. It definitely made for probably a much easier lane. And even with MF being as big of a bully as she is and comboing with the Braum, I can see where Ultralords possibly took the win in the next one.
Yeah, this one, Nocturne at a very good spot on this patch, so I was happy to see them pick that up. A lot of scaling for them also in the Rise, Mundo, and Varus. But we'll jump into the score screen. And this one, Titan Gaming Mox were able to close it out 2-0. What's up, Matthias? Hype indeed. Glad to have you in the chat. Again, SimJim was able to find some early leads and put a lot of pressure on the map. This is one where it looked a lot like Ultralords were going to make the comeback in this game, but they won a couple team fights where Titan Gaming Mox were trying to push, but then they overstayed a little bit near the enemy base, got killed, and then Titan Gaming Mox were able to run it back and end the game just when it looked like it was going to get turned around. But
Man, these guys are they're just trying to make that repeat run from last season, and they're looking pretty good right now. Again, like as we said, there was some discrepancies with the salaries, but even then, it still seemed like in the second game it was a lot more even in comparison to the first. It, both these teams play their heart outs. That's the best I can say.
very true, very true. Again, we apologize that happened, but we will try to make sure we double check all the salaries, but it was a last minute sub and it just slipped through the crack. For the next series, it was Los Nomadas versus the Kraken Slayers. This one was another fun series. Game number one, Los Nomadas had Jin, Thresh, Singed, Lissandra, and Jax. Kraken Slayers had Samira, Nautilus, Urgot, Belveth, and Galio. Had you seen these ones, Malco? You want to do any guesses? It was
We
the
don't have to do
Bulb
guesses
Jax.
on.
That's right, where it was.
Yeah, I was about to say the Jackson. We definitely got to give it up to Ray Was on that Thresh, having some really clutch lanterns, some extremely good hooks. The Singe was definitely annoying, and then the Jin just ran rampant once they got ramped up. The whole team itself was just looking really good on Los Lamata's side. So if you wanna, we could just go right into this one because I remember
Powered through it.
this was a fun one.
Yeah, this one went to about 30 minutes. Singed is cancer, you're right, Salt. Although I did start off the game where I was basically 50 CS up on Singed because I had him just zoned off the wave. Unfortunately, the rest of the map ended up a little bit on fire, and Los Amadas ran with that and took game number one pretty well.
Honestly, it was your Urgot that had us like that when we were casting it. It gave us some hope for you guys to pull that game out because it was just you were just and the moments that you were there, it mattered. And then, but unfortunately, it just got to the point where Los Llamadas just kept catching out different members on your team. Whether they were like finding console C randomly or Pharaoh, unfortunately, was a little too deep in. And I forgot who was casting with me that night, but they were very interested to see it
DD,
was
I think.
I think it was because he was interested to see Pharaoh on the Dark Harvest more damagey type of build, and we thought that would have been honestly something better for them would have probably been closer to that tankier build for you guys.
Right,
And
right.
that I think that was something that we kind of like thought of was like maybe a potential factor. But again, it also just came down to the fact that like Bull got really big on Jax, and then just literally the perfect game for Junie on Jin was absolutely insane.
Gotta get that salary up. Getting called out by your own support. Come on now. Yeah, they did a really good job. There were some fights around the new Rift Scuttle objectives that they got some kills off of as well. So bot lane played really well for them as they always do, and then just a lot of good skirmishes with the top mid and jungle trio. But we'll jump into game number 2. This is definitely overall a series. If you didn't see it, you should check it out. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, dude, it was absolutely absurd to cast it. I actually went back and had to rewatch the VOD. It was so much fun.
Right, right.
Like,
You're like, what
for
happened? Let me remind myself. But here for game number 2, Kraken Slayer on the blue side. This time we took the Jin and gave Pharaoh his Hwei in the mid lane. Grabbed that Nocturne, Mordekaiser, and Alistar. Los Namadas grabbed Caitlyn, Thresh, Jax, Ari, and Olaf. Want to just jump into the score screen, talk about what happened?
let's go right ahead.
All right.
'Cause I actually have a couple notes from that game.
Game number 2 was taken by Kraken Slayers, so we were able to take them 1-1 for the Silver Scrapes, see who takes the series. But what do you remember from this game?
What I remember was I gave some props to Pharaoh in the early game with his way because it was actually pretty decent on like keeping Snirbopsy at least in the lane fairly even with him throughout the dueling phase in that very beginning. And then it just kumquat on the Alistair everywhere, literally everywhere. And then the Nocturne, I know you guys were very, very happy to get that. I was screaming for it to be banned the very next game. Nocturne is absolutely disgusting this patch. And it is just not fun to deal with when literally almost every 45 seconds you just hear darkness.
Right, right.
And it's like, yeah, they had the Olaf in the top side, which was probably the best factor that was for Los Namadas on that end. But aside from that, it was just your team absolutely ran it up. It was crazy to see. And your Mordekaiser.
Yeah, despite getting counterpicked by the Olaf, not to toot my own horn, but I feel I did pretty well in that lane, and I still got to become that late game Mordekaiser who was a scary monster. There was one point where Nocturne decided to ult under a mid tower, and it was a little deep where a couple of us died trying to follow up. But past that, yeah, the Nocturne was great. Thank you,
It
Salt.
was
I appreciate it.
it was good for you guys. You guys didn't really like even with that play. It was just like okay, like next time, just don't go that deep. It didn't really give up too much. Maybe a couple shutdowns, but it wasn't like anything that stirred the game in Los Namadas side, so they could just immediately win it back. You guys have real good control
Right,
quite
right.
some time.
But then we went to game number 3. We'll check out this draft. And Olosamatis took the blue side once again. They grabbed Amumu, Syndra, Kindred, Galio, and Jax. We grabbed Alistar, Trundle, Hwei, Mordekaiser, and Varus. So they flexed that Amumu, had that AP carry that Junie also likes to do in the bot lane since we banned away the Jin. It had been good for both teams on the blue side. And we'll just jump into the score screen and talk about what happened. Where Los Namadas took the victory, got the 2-1, and headed themselves to the semis. So that's why we'll be watching Los Namadas versus Bomba Bros after this. Yeah, draft was a little questionable on both sides, but you guys made it work. What do you remember from this one, Malco?
I remember I was very caught off guard because there was I didn't know that Junie played the Syndra in the bot lane. I heard that Console did it and also played the Swain bot lane, but I did not know that Junie had the Syndra in the back pocket. And the Syndra's another one of those that has been extremely strong for too many patches, and I'm surprised that she still hasn't received the nerf hammer at this point. It is
Right.
it just doesn't make any sense how she keeps getting away with this. And Junie again being on one of those nearly unkillable Demon King games.
Almost. I was
Very
able to
close
kill
to
her
it.
one time right before the end
Yeah.
of the game.
So it was very, very unfortunate, but definitely a really strong performance. Bulgaria on the Kindred. I honestly thought it was gonna end up being like a bot lane Kindred or something, and just trying to farm marks off the bot side, and then because we're right now in a very bot centric meta, so almost Kindred bot lane almost kind of makes some sense because you want to a lot. Once you get void grubs, you're just trying to focus mostly on whatsoever going on the bot side, whether it's trying to gank bot lane, get your bot lane ahead, whether it's trying to secure a Drake or anything along those senses. The comp itself seemed like there was a lot of flexing going on at first, but then it just turned into they just exploded the game open, and Reaper being on the Jax. Jeez.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. I actually had a pretty good early game, but then I went to stop the Rift Scuttles when Bulgaria was trying to sneak him, and he ended up getting to set up a big freeze that I just couldn't break, and then he got big and kind of ran the game from there. So well played to Reaper in that top lane, and well played overall to Los Nomadas taking that victory. Now we'll jump into the third series and the final series that was played, which we'll talk about after this series. But it was Titan's Wrath against Goat Kings.
And this is another one actually I got the cast too.
Yeah, you wanna run through this draft?
Yes, sir. So for Goat Kings, we have the Rakan, Neela, Set, Deer, and Vigar. And for Titan's Wrath, we have the Karma, Ezreal, Skarner, Yone, and Fizz. Um, how did
Is
how
there?
do you think? Did you saw these ones? Oh yeah, you were actually
Um,
you were the streamer for these ones.
yeah, I was running the stream while you guys casted. Yeah, a lot of comfort for Goat Kings. If you let Envy get the Vigar, he's very good at playing safe and scaling up, and then the Baby Cage is really good. Letting Salt have Set gives him a whole bunch of comfort as well. So I did very much like this draft for the Goat Kings. Our region was stacked. True. You guys just OP. But here's the post game from game
Yeah.
number 1. It did indeed go to the Goat Kings. Deity getting very large on that Udyr, being a big presence on the map. Salt also large and unkillable for Envy the Reaper. Basically just did really well across the whole map for Goat Kings. Had a very good game 1. Ended it at 23 minutes.
I'm gonna say this to the hard way. I'm starting to appreciate the fact that you're someone that like who's in. I'm starting to appreciate people who want to play a little bit more balls to the wall. Yes, that does include Pharaoh too. Like I do have like an appreciation for people who feel that they can really start to limit test themselves. And and honestly, like Goat Kings was doing that the whole game. Like
Yeah.
they were just like, okay, we're pretty strong here. Let's just keep going. Like I think it was constantly Udyr. Even if he showed up late to objectives, they made something of it consistently from the Goat Kings, and that is where I think that we have to give a lot of props to them. Because even when they were like, for example, there was like the first round of Void Grubs, I believe KB was able to secure 2 of them, but Didi swept in, got the third, got a kill, and then was able to transition it to a top lane kill after Negavlad, I believe, tried roaming back down to try to
Right.
help KB. But it was just like, oh, so it just more net positive over net positive over net positive. Even when they're showing up late, they're trying to find what is the best. And this is what I said during the games too. They're trying to find what is the absolute best result that we can get from doing what we're committing to. And so if they can commit to it and they feel like there's an overall positive result, they'll go for it. And they're usually pretty confident with that, and as we can see, it showed in their stat lines.
Yeah, for sure. Also, the 21 of 29 KP Salt's calling out Deity just all over the map. But we'll jump into draft for game number 2.
That double, he ganked bot twice. Like it was actually crazy to see. Alrighty, so for the game 2 draft, we have Rakan, Neela, Set, Zinzao, Vigar. So as you guys can see, they did not want to see that Udyr on Goat King side once again. And then Titan's Wrath, we see the Ari, the Vayne, the Cassiopeia, the Senna, and the Rammus.
Yep, Salt already calling it out. Hated playing against Cass, who ended up in that top lane against him. Although I think he died once because he was trying to get a kill early and then just understood he couldn't fight and just farmed under tower and did perfectly fine. I do like how the Goat Kings ran back the same comp, only switching out Zenzao for Udyr since it was banned away. So definitely did the if it's not broke, don't fix it. I did like the Titans Wrath lineup here, trying to get some counters and a little more carry potential across the map. The only thing they were really lacking was the secondary engage. It was mostly on Rammus, and we'll jump to the score screen. But Xin Zhao was very effective with his ultimate blocking all the damage from the ranged carries while fighting Rammus in the front line. Made fighting pretty hard for Titan's Wrath, where Goat Kings took the series 2-0.
Envy once again going the unkillable Demon King for a 20 out of 25 KP. Deity 19 out of 25 in that game as well. Definitely got to give him some credits. Goat and Beard can't skip out him. 19 KP as well in that game too. So we gotta definitely give it up for our supports there.
Yep.
Overall clean game.
Envy the Reaper going unkilled for both games, getting to play Vigar both times. You know,
I definitely want to say like the Rammus did make a big difference. Like the way they changed up their comp did make a big difference, and I thought there was gonna be some glimpses of where it was like Rammus is gonna end up taking over just completely and making it so difficult for them to do anything. But it didn't. I just think they didn't. I don't think that like Titan's Wrath had the time to scale the way they wanted to, and that's
yeah,
just,
it was actually really unfortunate that it was a Xin Zhao, because he was kind of the one they could hit. But then when he ulted, he was just delaying them from actually doing anything for like 3 seconds. So it made fighting really hard. But this one was a little more back and forth. Titan's Wrath actually had a 2 or 3k gold lead at some point, so looking pretty good in the early game. But once Vigar got scaled up and they kind of got the team fighting, Goat Kings were able to turn it back around and win the second game. And then we don't have the fourth series because unfortunately Donger Squad weren't able to field a team, so they had to forfeit to the Bomba Bros. So we're sorry to see that happen, but it is what it is. So here are the bracket for going into... Oh, where'd it go?
next one.
That's the wrong one. Here we go. There we go. Wrong button. Here's the bracket. Here's the bracket for going into semis. We have Titan Gaming Box against the Goat Kings and Bomba Bros versus Los Nomados.
As we can see, we have in the first round matchup, it's going to be a rematch of the finals from last season. And then in the second one, it's looking like Los Nomados, if I remember correctly, the team last season was not nearly this strong.
Yeah, they won season 1, and then last season they were last or second to last, not even making it to playoffs, and then they coming back with a vengeance. Season 3, trying to make their run to the finals once again, see if they can't win it. Also the rematch, as you said, from last season, Titan Gaming Box versus the Goat Kings, finals of season 2. So we'll have to see if Goat Kings can get their vengeance from last season and try to make their ways to the final. The bold diff indeed. And we already have the games that we're going to watch tonight. They were played last weekend, since there was the forfeit. Bomba Bros were kind enough to play Los Nomadas since Bulgaria was away this weekend, which I see everyone talking about the website. If you want to get updated, everyone should just DM Bulgaria and harass him until he updates it. But Blitz is probably right. It probably will be out of date till next season. But go harass them if you want anything to happen. But yeah, that's the Seer for this week. If anyone has any primers or want to sub to us, we will appreciate it. And we're going to go offline real quick, get up the other casters ready, and we'll be right back with the games of Bomba Bros versus Los Nomadas. So stay tuned, and we'll see you guys in a little bit.
Do not touch that dial.
The moon in the night shines bright like the sun. Goods and silhouettes burning like wood. Slowly we creep while family sleeping was awoke with cries. die. Draw your blade, you demon oblivion. Double-edged sword like the tongues we tell. Tales of a legend that the king once fell. Ravens flee and the darkness scream. Reign of the king has died.